December 7th, 1941, a day that will forever live in infamy. It was supposed to be just another Sunday morning at the naval base in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. But as the sun rose over the Pacific Ocean, American sailors and civilians were about to face a surprise attack that would change the course of history. In this video, we'll take a closer look at what happened on that fateful day and how it affected America forever. Pearl Harbor was a bustling naval base located on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. At the time, America was neutral in World War II and had not yet entered the conflict. But tensions were high between Japan and the United States due to American involvement in China and Japan's desire for expansion in Asia. On December 7th, Japanese planes launched a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. The attack lasted for 2 hours and resulted in significant damage to American ships and aircraft. More than 2,400 Americans lost their lives and over 1,100 were wounded. The attack began at approximately 7:55 a.m. local time when Japanese bombers and torpedo planes descended upon the harbor. The first wave of attackers targeted battleships, such as the USS Arizona, which suffered a catastrophic explosion after being hit by several bombs. The attack came as a shock to Americans, who had believed that they were safe from foreign invasion on their own soil. They woke up to explosions and gunfire all around them as Japanese planes flew overhead, dropping bombs on everything they saw. The scene was chaotic as people ran for cover amid smoke and fire, while others tried desperately to fight back against the enemy forces. The sound of explosions echoed throughout the harbor as ships sank into the water one by one. As the attack continued, American sailors and soldiers fought back against overwhelming odds. Many were killed or wounded in action, but their bravery helped to slow down the Japanese advance. Despite this resistance, however, the damage had already been done. By the time the second wave of attackers arrived around an hour later, much of the American fleet was in ruins. Several battleships had been sunk or badly damaged, while numerous other vessels were also hit. In total, over 2,400 Americans lost their lives in the attack on Pearl Harbor. Another 1,200 were wounded. The loss of life and destruction caused by this single event was staggering, and it would have far-reaching consequences for both America and Japan. President Franklin D. Roosevelt addressed Congress the next day with his famous Day of Infamy speech, declaring war against Japan and thrusting America into World War II. The aftermath of Pearl Harbor was devastating for Americans both at home and abroad. Many young men enlisted to fight for their country, while others were drafted into service. The war effort brought about changes in American society as women took on new roles previously reserved for men, and industries shifted production towards military supplies. As America fought back against its enemies overseas, those left behind dealt with fear, uncertainty, grief and loss every day. Families mourned loved ones who never returned home from battlefields far away, while others struggled with rationing or faced discrimination due to their ancestry being associated with Japan. The attack on Pearl Harbor had a profound impact on US-Japan relations, which lasted for decades after the end of World War II. The relationship between the two countries was strained, and it took years of diplomatic efforts to rebuild trust and establish a new partnership. Immediately after the attack, President Roosevelt declared war on Japan, and the United States became fully involved in World War II. The US military launched a series of counterattacks against Japan, including the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. These events left deep scars on both nations. In the aftermath of World War II, the United States occupied Japan from 1945 to 1952. During this time, America implemented significant political and economic reforms in Japan. The occupation aimed to demilitarize Japan and establish a democratic government. The occupation resulted in significant changes in Japanese society, including land reform policies that helped redistribute land ownership to farmers who previously did not own any land. It also allowed women to participate more actively in politics by granting them the right to vote. However, despite these changes, tensions continued between the two countries. One source of tension was disagreements over trade policies. In the 1980s, Japan's economy grew rapidly, while America's economy struggled with recession. This led to accusations that Japan was engaging in unfair trade practices that hurt American businesses. Another source of tension was related to historical issues stemming from World War II. Many Americans still harbored feelings of anger towards Japan for its role in starting the war and attacking Pearl Harbor. Meanwhile, many Japanese felt that America had not taken sufficient responsibility for its actions during the war. Despite these challenges, there have been significant efforts made by both countries to improve their relationship since World War II ended. In 1960, America signed a treaty with Japan that allowed for joint defense cooperation between the two nations. In recent years, there have been efforts made by both nations' leaders to strengthen their partnership even further. For example, in May 2019, President Trump became the first sitting US president to meet with Emperor Naruhito of Japan since he ascended to the throne earlier that month. Overall, it is clear that Pearl Harbor had far-reaching effects on US-Japan relations that lasted for decades after World War II ended. While there were significant challenges along the way, particularly related to trade policy and historical issues, both nations have worked hard over time to rebuild trust and establish a new foundation for their partnership based on mutual respect and shared interests. Since the end of World War II, there have been significant efforts by both the United States and Japan to strengthen their partnership. One notable example is a treaty signed in 1960 that allowed for joint defense cooperation between the two nations. In recent years, there have been further efforts made to improve relations between the two countries. In May 2019, President Trump became the first sitting US president to meet with Emperor Naruhito of Japan since he ascended to the throne earlier that month. This meeting was seen as a sign of strong diplomatic ties between the two nations. Additionally, both countries have worked together on issues such as trade and security. For example, in November 2020, Japan joined the United States and other countries in signing an agreement known as the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, which aims to promote free trade among member nations. In terms of security cooperation, both nations continue to work closely together through alliances and joint military exercises. These efforts demonstrate a commitment by both nations to strengthening their partnership and promoting stability in the Asia-Pacific region and beyond. Pearl Harbor remains one of America's most tragic moments in history that changed everything forevermore. It marked an end to American isolationism by thrusting them into global conflict. While it remains a painful reminder of war's devastation both domestically and internationally, it also serves as a testament to human resilience and courage under fire during times when our very existence was threatened by tyranny and oppression.